Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Tier 9 French Premium Light Tank, the Fraternite Char MLE 75. Now this is a light tank with a bit of a gimmick, but also can be pretty decent, and that is that you get a burst gun, or you get a 6-shot 270 Alpha auto-loading gun. Now the auto-loader gun is actually pretty decent. I think that gun is actually pretty nice to use. The light tank as a whole, it's more of a damage dealing light tank than a spotter, and that's because you do get also a turbo mode. Well, you get a travel mode, you get a mode that makes you quicker, but even though it doesn't tell you this in game, which is why I'm telling you this is a thing, if you switch to the turbo mode, you actually lose camo and view range, and it makes your gun worse. So you actually have to get closer to the enemy to spot them, and they're more likely to spot you before you spot them. And you're a fairly large target, which means you're fairly easy to hit for them. But you do have pretty decent camo if you're not in the turbo mode, and you're probably best to use that camo to sort of try and stay out the turbo mode, go spot people, and then flank away to a position where you can start unloading with this gun. Because like I said, this gun's pretty nice. You don't even have to run vertical stabilizers because the dispersion is pretty decent on it. It doesn't bloom out that much at all, and you really can use this gun pretty decently. And the pen's okay. And that's the problem with the burst gun, is that the burst gun, once you start firing, it fires 3 shells in a burst, reloads 3 in a bit seconds, fires a third set, another salvo, which means you do tend to miss quite a lot with that gun, which costs you a lot of silver, and you only have 200 pen on your standard rounds. You have far worse pen than this autoloader gun, so yeah, it's a bit of a problem. But on the whole, it's a pretty decent light tank. Is it worth picking up? I'll leave that one down to you. If you like light tanks, it might be, but realistically, if you want a Tier 9 premium tank, you're going to go buy the AET-60, because the AET-60, which is still on sale, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there it is. The AET-60 is just a far better, well, it's just the best Tier 9 tank in the game, generally, and it's the one that you're going to go spend your money on, not this one, pretty much. But without further ado, let's get into the old statistics of this tank. So we're going to go through the 6-shot autoloader first, and then I'll put on the other gun to show you. So we've got 850 horsepower with a 60 km/h top speed and a 20 km/h reverse speed with 28.72 horsepower per ton ratio, which means that, you know, you basically hit the 60 km/h pretty easily as a light tank. And you've got 20 km/h reverse speed, which is pretty damn nice. It means you get out of dodge very, very quickly. Now, if we're to actually switch to the website for a second, as you can see here, now you can see where the changes come when you're in turbo mode. So if we go to the turbo mode, as you can see, you've got a 75 km/h top speed in turbo with a 30 km/h reverse speed in the turbo mode. And your power to weight goes up to 42.24 in that turbo mode. So, once again, you start climbing things like hills, you go at rapid pace at 75, you know, just the turbo mode boosts your mobility really, really well. It's just a shame it destroys other factors in this tank. So you've got 1200 hit points, which is about on par for a lot of the light tanks at Tier 9. You take a few hits. I mean, realistically, for the average alpha at the tier, which is 400, you're taking 3 shots before you're down. So you just got to be careful not to try not to get hit, pretty much. But it's quite difficult because the tank is large and fairly easy to hit. You've got a 38 degrees a second hull rotation, which is pretty decent, although I find that when you're going at a top speed, it feels pretty slow when it's trying to traverse. It's not one that you're going to go out traversing and circling someone really, really easily, because it tends to not turn in circles that well. You've got a 2 on soft terrain, 1 on medium, and 0.9 on firm, which is pretty decent. You will... Again, it doesn't really affect your top speed whatsoever. You do hit that top speed pretty nicely. You've got 320 meters of still concealment, which you can knock down to about 260 something with a camo net and camo crew. So that's pretty nice. And again, you can try and spot people, run away, use your camo, and then start unloading the gun on them. Because like I said, this feels like a more damage dealing light tank than a spotter. You do only have 380 meters view range though, which is very French, because the AMX 1390 has the same 380 meters view range. Means that you aren't going to spot things just as easily as, say, something like a Speer Panzer or, well, the RU-251, sorry, not the Speer Panzer, the RU-251 or the T-49 or stuff like that. You're going to have to get a bit closer to be able to spot those targets, which makes it a little bit more difficult. And especially, like I say, when you do get spotted yourself, it's a lot harder to dodge the shots because you are a big target. You've got a 50 degrees a second turret rotation, which is pretty damn nice. It means that you go past the tracks really, really quickly, which means, again, it does make it a lot easier for going round tanks and keeping the gun on target. It means that even if you turn away, the gun is most likely going to still stay on target. You got 0.76 accuracy during rotation, which is pretty damn good. You've got an 8 degrees of gun depression, which, by the way, you lose the gun depression over the rear. I think it goes to like 1 or 2 or something like that over the rear. So bear in mind that if you're shooting at something and you try and run away, you're not going to have the gun depression to shoot at it half the time. So just be very, very wary of that. You got 33-second reload, which does feel a little bit long at times, but again, you're a light tank, so you're not supposed to be reloading as quick as some of the other tanks, right? But 33 seconds does feel a little bit long sometimes. With a 0.38 accuracy, which I haven't really felt to be that bad, if I'm honest. It feels, the gun handling in terms of, you look at the stats and you go, not great. 2.8 second aim time, you know, the 0.38 accuracy. It's not going to be that great in terms of its accuracy, but actually it's pretty decent. It doesn't bloom out that much, so the 2.8 second aim time doesn't really factor in too much, and the 0.38 accuracy doesn't feel that bad, only when you're at extreme ranges, really. You've got 2.28 meters on the move, which is not actually that bad, really, because again, if you run and gun and things like that, you're going to knock that down to a decent level. You could run vertical stabilizers to get that even better, but you don't really need to. And I did run vert stabs for the first couple of games, and I thought, you know what, I need the traction system. So I put the traction system on, and the gun felt really no different, if I'm honest. You've got a 3.5 second intra-clip, which again, it feels a little bit slow to get the intra-clip shots out, but once you start to get the clip out into people, you do a heck of a lot of damage. And this 6 clip is really quite nice for just unloading shots into people, especially at distance. Like I said, it's really got to be played at a bit of a distance for you to get the most out of it. And yeah, 3.5 seconds is a little bit slow. You do have to get used to it, but again, being a light tank, it's not the most important thing ever sometimes. You got 232 AP pen, which is great. You're going to pen most things you're going to face at tier 7, 8, and 9, and you're still going to pen quite a lot at tier 10 with that. But you do have 263 penetration on the APCR, which will help you to pen most things that aren't super heavies, pretty much. And if they are super heavies, most of the time you are trying to get around the side of them to be able to get those shots into the side anyway. You've got 270 alpha, like I say, which is not quite the 320 you might expect of 100mm. It's a little bit odd that it hasn't got that 320, but 270 is still a decent amount. And you do put out a good amount of damage when you're unloading these shells into people. You have 1050 max ammo speed with 1350 APCR, which the shell velocity is really, really nice, and it's really, really nice on the premium especially, which means that if you fire the premium, you don't really have to worry too much about leading all that much at distance. The standard rounds are pretty good at 1050, but you do have to just make sure that you're leading your targets correctly with that. You're not going to have the auto, I'm just aiming a slight bit in front of them and hitting them every time. And in terms of the fact that it's a tier 9 premium, yeah, you get no bonuses. So that is something to bear in mind. This is why I say if you're going to spend money on a tier 9 premium, you're more likely to buy a tank that's absolutely ridiculous like the AAT-60 as opposed to something like the Char MLE 75 where it's a bit like, it's pretty decent and you can do pretty well with it and you can enjoy it. It can be a little bit frustrating at times, but you're paying like 12,000 gold for this. You want it to be like lovely, and the AAT-60 is that. But yeah, let's go take a quick look at the other gun. Now this is the burst gun, and you've already seen a little bit of the change with the stat card. As you can see, the DPM has dropped massively. You've got 1210 DPM because the reload is 42 seconds. The reload is 42 seconds on this clip, which feels like it takes a little while. Can be very frustrating with how long it takes to fire. The clip is very, very satisfying, though, because it has a 2-shot per clip, and you might go in 2 shots for 42 seconds. It's a burst fire. So it fires 3 shells of 200 damage. And you can't stop the burst. So once you pull the trigger, you will fire 3 shots of 200 damage. And you'll do 600 damage if you pen all 3 shots. You have to pen all 3 shots. Makes it very, very awkward for when there's one-shot tanks because it means that you're wasting shells, which is why this gun costs you a lot of money as well, even if you fire full standard, because you will miss a lot of shots, you won't pen a lot of shots, which means the shells cost you a decent amount. And yeah, so you fire 3 shells of 200, which, I say, It's a pain at distance as well, because a lot of times the dispersions, well, the accuracy at 0.38 starts to rear its ugly head a little bit, because after firing it blooms out a little bit. So yeah, this gun is not the best. It's a meme. It's a meme. When you hit all 3 shells, it's really, really satisfying. And when you do 1,200 damage in 3.5 seconds to people, when, you know, they're at least suspecting it and the clip hits all its shots, it's really, really nice, because it's like a second. Once you fire, it's like a second between the bursts. This gun can be a meme, and it can be fun, but it's not that great to use, and especially since, really, if you're going to use this gun, you're going to fire full premium. Because you're going to fire, you're not really going to do too much at tier 9 with that 200 pen, whereas the 240 is just about workable, and you're going to fire the full prem to make sure that you can hit those, well, you can pen those shells, let alone hit them. But yeah, they're the stats for the burst gun, and yeah, which gun would I recommend? I'd fully recommend the 6-shot autoloader. But if you're a meme lord and you like memes, run the burst shot, and you might have some good times. So in terms of equipment, I run the camo net to make my camo better, the traction system to make my mobility better, get my better track traverse, and get my better top speed, and optics to be able to spot for myself, since I am a light tank, and I want to be spotting for my team if I can, and also being able to see things myself. And yeah, the traction system will actually get you up to 66 kilometers an hour as well, which is great. You can see the camo has been knocked down in itself. This is what I'd run. You could change it up for what you want. You could run the vert stabs if you get unhappy with the gun if you want. You could run the vents to make everything better. You could run the advanced powertrain to get you up even faster, because if we... well, yeah. You could run the powertrain to make you even faster again, instead of a camo net and traction system. This is what I'm saying. That's what I meant to do. Brain work. And yeah, you can basically get up to 69 kilometers an hour, which is like 83 or 84 in the... it's 83 or 84 in the turbo mode, which is rapid. But yeah, there's so many different things you can set up this tank for. It's completely down to you. And as for the crew, I did stick it in the EBR 90. It's pretty much the same crew I would use in a wheelie boy anyway. And that is Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Muffled Shot, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun. The 3 gun perks just to make this gun as good as possible, especially since I'm not using vert stabs. The Camouflage Expertise and Muffled Shot to make sure that my camo is as good as possible, and that when I'm firing from concealment, which is where I'm going to be doing it most of the time in this light tank, I'm not getting spotted as easily, because it reduces the effect of firing on my camo by 35%. And then these 4 you're always taking on everything. Well, these 5 you're going to take on every single tank no matter what. If you don't care for the effect of Muffled Shot, by the way, you could run clutch braking to make the track traverse better, because the track traverse does limit you at times, so you could definitely do that. You could run, if you run the burst gun, you could run Deadeye to try and make sure that you... well, to try and make it so that you're 6% more chance of damaging an enemy module, so 6% more chance of doing something like setting someone on fire with that burst. You know, you could run that, you could run Mark Target if you really wanted to keep things spotted for longer. There's plenty of things that you can do with this crew. That's just a basis for you. You know, if you get this tank and you set it up like that, you can think, you know what, I feel like it's something else needs to... I feel like the clutch, you know, the traverse speed isn't good enough, I'm going to run clutch braking. Always a basis. It's not a you should run this crew. It's just a that's what I run, and you can change it up to how you want it to work. So in terms of the pimped out stats, let's go have a look. As you can see, you've got a 66 km/h top speed now with the traction system. You've got a 41 degrees a second on the hull rotation, so you've got an extra, what, 3, nearly 4 there on the hull rotation. The terrain resistances have knocked down to 1.8, 0.9 and 0.83. Your still concealment's down to 267. Your view range is at 486, which means your camo is pretty damn good, and your ability to spot people is nice. Your reload has been knocked down to 2.6... sorry, 2.6? 26.74. Good lord, okay, we'll get there in the end. 26.74 seconds on the reload, which is pretty decent. Again, it feels a little bit long still, but, you know, you're a light tank, I suppose. And you've got a 0.31 accuracy as well. Your accuracy during rotation is down to 0.5. Your accuracy during movement is down to 1.79 because of run and gun. Again, you could get that down to about 1.4, I think it was, with vert stab, something like that. And your aim time is 2.58. Your DPM's gone to like 2.2 nearly. And yeah, that's the fully pimped out stats. The tank is, well, okay, let's put the burst gun in as well. So yeah, the tank on the whole is a pretty decent tank. It's pretty enjoyable. You can get the most out of it. It's a little bit frustrating that the turbo mode basically neuters your view range and your camo when you switch to it, because it just basically means that, yes, I can go speedy, I can get to where I need to, but the thing is, I'm going to struggle to spot people, and people will just spot me, which is a pain. And as you can see with this burst gun, we've knocked down from like 42 seconds to 34.03, which means that you got a little bit better DPM. But yeah, that's pretty much the only difference in that burst gun. It still takes an age to reload it. Like I said, the best gun on the tank is this autoloader, but you can have some absolute memes with that burst gun. But yeah, on the whole, this tank is... It can be enjoyable. It can be enjoyable. There's things that frustrate me about it, and there's things that I do really like about it. And I suppose that's the sign of a pretty well-balanced tank, right? Is it worth the 12,000 gold? I'm not sure. They released this the week after the AAT60. They released this the week after the AAT60, and the AAT60 is just so ridiculously good that it makes all the others just not worth buying or spending this much gold on, pretty much. But yeah, I'll leave it down to you. But as always, everybody, I'm going to send you into the replays where you can go and watch how this tank handles. I will have 1 replay with the burst gun and then 3 with the main gun that you're going to use, just so that you get the sights of both guns, and you can go make your mind up on how it handles. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Fraternite, and this first replay is going to be using the burst gun, so that you can get a little bit of a lowdown on how it handles and just what it's like. Like I said, I don't think it's the best gun for the tank. I think the majority of people will use that 6-shot autoloader, but this tank can be pretty memey with it, because you can just do some serious damage so quickly. Like I say, if all shells hit, within 6 seconds you've done 1,200 damage to people, which can be hilarious, especially if you set them on fire. And yeah, but the thing is, it's all got to go well for you. And by that, I mean that the gun has to hit the target. The gun has to hit the target with every single shot, and it has to pen all 3 of those shots to be effective. So as you can see, we're on Corellia, and on Corellia, I'm just going to try and spot the things that are crossing up the 1 line. We're just looking for the shot into the Centurion Action 10, but I just couldn't quite find it. And I decide, you know what, actually, no, I'm not going to go for that, because, yeah, he can see me. I do get detected there, which makes me go, okay, there's something in the middle somewhere possibly looking at me, or it was the E5 trying to get a shot, and here is the EBR-90. I'm like, aha, I shall go for you. We hit 2 of the 3, and it's like, okay then, I shouldn't auto-aim, because I'll end up missing the last 3 completely. I should have aimed properly there, and as you can see, the track traverse isn't quite... It doesn't quite feel like what it says it is, because you're trying to turn, and it's like, nah, I'm not going to turn, I'm just going to crash into the rock. I mean, my driving is also part of that, but, you know, you do get a feel of the fact that it says 41 degrees a second on the hull traverse, but it doesn't feel like it all that often. I suppose it's because it's quite a long hull. But yeah, you saw with the burst gun there that we managed to hit 2 out of 3 in the first salvo, which was great, 428 damage. But then the second salvo, because I was auto-aiming it, he was moving away from me and stuff like that. Yeah, all the shells went awry, which was not a good time. But we see an opportunity. This Centurion Action 10 is facing our guys, and I'm like, aha, I shall get you. And I'm like, oh god, that's an E5. Yeah, I forgot about you. Okay, leave me alone, E5. He unfortunately gets a shell into us, and I'm just thinking, well, he probably won't get a shell into us again. Oh, okay, apparently he did. And unfortunately, he knocks us down to 404 hit points. We're up to 799 damage with 1,000 assistance, and we're just going to run away from that situation. We're going to swivel around now, though, because that E5 is now alone against 3 of our tanks, because the Action 10 just got shut down. I'm thinking, right, can I get behind this E5, maybe? Get some shots into him when I've reloaded. And as you can see, the reload is a while. It takes some time. And I see this 780, and it's like, right, okay, you know what? Forget that E5. He's probably going to die. This 780 is in the perfect place where I can get some shots into his side. He sits still, which is great. We have the premium rounds going in because we were loading it for the E5. As you can see, we get 3 shells in. And then we get the final 3 in, which sets him on fire. There is a bit of a lag with the ribbons. Basically, the ribbon won't show up on your damage feed. Or, well, it won't interact with your feed whatsoever until it's fired the burst. And that's what happens. So as you saw with that, we actually ended up hitting it, and there was no feedback registration at all whatsoever saying, oh yeah, you did hit that, until we finished the burst. And then the ribbons appeared, and it was like, yeah, you hit all three. Nice times. But that's where this burst can be really, really nice, because you saw on that 780, we took a load of his hit points straight away. And that's where the burst can be a little bit annoying, because we ended up missing the 2 out of 3 on that first burst. But the second 3 went in, which is nice to get us up to that extra 600 damage. We're up to 3.3k damage with 1600 assistance, but there's only 2 tanks left on the enemy team. And that is the Death Star and the Projector 65, and they're currently getting swamped. But you've seen a bit of the good and the bad of this gun, and that is the fact that it racks up the damage really quickly within that clip, and it's really satisfying when it works. And you watch your damage total go from like nothing to 1200 really, really quickly. But there's a lot of times where you start firing and you hit 1 out of 3, and then you hit 1 out of 3 in the next one, and it feels really underwhelming and really annoying, as well as the fact that it's got lower pen. But as you can see, we finished with 3.3k damage, the 1600 assistance, 1375 base XP, which was the second class. Decent game for the Fraternite. Showed off the burst gun pretty well. But now I'm going to show you the main gun, the gun that you're going to take, which is this 6-shot autoloader, because it packs a lot of damage. Its reload is a little bit quicker, but the main thing is the penetration. The penetration is a lot better. It means that you can fire a lot of standard and pen a lot of those rounds, and it doesn't cost you quite as much money as the burst gun does. Because like I say, the burst gun does cost you a fair amount, because those will take the shots on the EBR. The 2 out of 3 would have recouped me some of my money, because naturally when you fire a shell, you get some of the cost back if you pen it. So we got 2 out of 3 on that one, but then we missed all 3 of the other ones. I know naturally bad misses and that, but that's 3 shells that are costing you more money that you're missing. And then on the Leopard, we penned 1 out of 3 again, so we got the cost of 2 of those shells. But then we penned all 3 anyway, so it wasn't too bad on the final one. It just means that you end up bleeding a lot of money with that gun. I tend to find that when I was using the burst gun, I was bleeding money very, very quickly, and it's a little bit annoying that it was, losing so much money. I mean, you've got, on this gun, it's 880 silver for the main round, with 4.4k on the premium. And on the burst gun, I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. So it's just costing you silver every time you miss those shots. And like I said, if you are going to be using the burst gun, you're going to be firing a lot of premium too, because 240 pen is what you're going to be needing at tier 9 when you're seeing tier 10 a lot, as 200 pen isn't going to do it for you. So as you can see on Fisherman's Bay, this Patriot is caught out in a very bad spot, and we are now just unloading the pain on this guy, and we shut him down with our clip. And we're on to 1200 damage already. I decide, okay, I'm going to push forward and see if I can spot some stuff while I'm reloading the clip. The IS-3 over there is looking our way, which is why we get detected. We do notice the T-49 in front of us is running around. I think he's just penned that Projector 66. That's something we've got to be very, very careful of, because that T-49, is going to pen us with his HE, and it's not going to be a very fun time. Something else that could pen us with HE is that turtle. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we can try and get some shots into him. So we penned one, and unfortunately the second one only did track damage. The IS-3 that was over there ends up blapping us. And yeah, it's like, okay, that Aguila just died. The Projector 66 is dead. I've got to run away, because those guys are just going to YOLO into this dip where I am. I cannot stay there. That's a bad time for me. This T-49 is going to get us. But then this T-49 is like, oh, okay, this T-49 is YOLOing after us. Unfortunately, we miss a shell there. He misses his shell. And, well, we're just going to say goodnight, sweet prince. Make sure we get the shell in as well, because we didn't want to miss that shot. We do have 1 shell left in the clip, though, so I'm going to make sure I can try and get the damage out, and we get it straight into the engine deck of that Chrysler K. Unfortunately, the AMX M451 comes over and gives us a big shellacking. Sad times. We would have wanted those hit points. We're up to 2,000 damage, 311 assistance. Just being careful of that turtle, because the turtle, I say, could pen us with the HE, and that would be a bad end to our game already. But we're just looking for another place to get some shots into. We see the Leopard PTA over here. Just looking for the PTA, but he just drops down a bit too low for us to get a shot into. And I'm just watching the 2 heavy tanks. We end up spotting this King Dragon crossing. It's like, hello, Mr. King Dragon. Let me just unload some shells into you. Hang on a minute. He didn't spot me. He gets tracked. So we go for the retrack, but unfortunately we don't get it. And this man must not spec for view range, and my camo's pretty decent. He just cannot see us. Unfortunately, he repairs there, which means that we can't quite finish him off, but he pulls out just enough for us to slam the shot in, and we get spotted with the final shot there. And we get rid of that King Dragon. And we're up to 3.3k damage with 311 assistance. That's where this gun is nice. Sure, if we had the burst gun, we probably would have done that 1200 damage to him very, very quickly. But he was moving, so, you know, at the distance, you could probably miss a fair few of those shots if you're not careful. But the clip potential, like, we managed to just clip out that King Dragon, no problem. It is something that's very, very nice for this tank, is the fact that you do have that clip potential. And 3.5 seconds is a little bit long, but generally it's not ridiculous. So, yeah, you do get the damage out pretty quickly for it. Unfortunately, we end up bouncing the shot there on the turtle, which could have shut him down. Sad, sad times for us. But we're going to pull over and start unloading into what we can. We get a nice shot into the Leopard PTA. We do spot the SU-130PM from the back. They have the SU-130PM and the CS-52 lease in front of us. And I think, you know what? Okay, everything's pulled back. Let's go over and shut these guys down. The SU-130PM gets shut down by the Conqueror, leaving this 52 lease alone. And the Conqueror ends up shutting him down. We do have 2 shots left. We're up to 4.1k damage. We try and get a shot into the SU-130PM on the move. He misses, I miss. Fortunately enough, he missed because he probably would have killed us there. But we have 1 shell left. I mean, I could reload, but I decided, you know what, no, I'm just going to try and get this shot in. And unfortunately, we end up bouncing on this PTA. But we're going to try and keep him lit, same as we're going to try and keep the SU lit as well a little bit, because that way we're going to get the assistance on them. And as you see, our assistance is starting to climb a little bit. It's not much, but every little helps. The turtle is coming in on our medium tank, and I thought, you know what, I'll try and ram the turtle, but the standard B ends up shutting him down. But we do finish the game with the victory. Top of the team, 3 kills, 4.1k damage, 1100 assistance. Sniper, the first class, 1606 base XP. Pretty decent game for the Fraternite Char MLE 75. Again, showed the power of that gun in the fact that you can unload and you can do some significant damage to people pretty quickly, and especially if they get caught out in the open, just like any other autoloader, you can whittle away their hit points, and there's not as much they can do about it. And I think the reload's pretty decent as well. So take note in this replay, what's just happened to my view range and my camo. I'm in turbo now, and you're seeing the speed in the turbo with the traction system. And you're seeing the gun bloom. There's no chance of firing in this mode. No chance whatsoever. You're going to miss every shot. And you can see we're going at 82 kilometers an hour, as long as we're not going over any bumps. What you want to use this mode for is essentially damage clear up, where you're on the one side of the map and the enemy team has lost already, basically, and there's like 3 people left and they're on the opposite side of the map and you need to get towards them quickly to get the damage off. Or you want to try and get to those early positions, because as you see, the view range went down and the camo went down. Well, the camo got worse as well, but as soon as we switch back to this mode, our camo and view range are good again. And it's just a pain, because it means the turbo mode is just like, is it worth it in every game situations? No. It's worth it to get to those aggressive positions and try and, you know, push to really aggressive positions quickly, or to try and get to that last little bit of damage at the end of a game. But it's not worth it to be a scout, because you just don't have the view range anymore and you don't have the camo anymore to stay unspotted when you do use that mode, which just hinders you a hell of a lot. So as you can see, we're pushed into a very aggressive position. We got a nice shot into the Centauro. Fortunately enough, he missed us. Something bounced off us as well, which is glorious. And now I decide, you know what, screw the Centauro, screw this CD line. There's not much here. I see where my heavy tank is at E5, and I decide, yeah, I'm going to go up to this ledge like where he is, because look where the enemy team is. This could create a great firing line for us to shoot at. And as you can see, we've pulled into the bushes, and this T58 heavy cannot see us because our camo is pretty decent, and this is where like stuff like muffled shot and having the camo net in general is really, really nice. We managed to get 2 of the shots into the T58 heavy, and unfortunately the final one bounces. And I was like, hang on a minute, I had a tank next to me a minute ago. That machine got waffled, which is never a good time. It could have happened to us if we got spotted, but thankfully enough for us, because our camo is pretty good, we didn't. And we're just waiting for this reload now to come in. We boost our reload with food and plus our accuracy as well when we boost it. Now we're nearly reloaded. I'm just looking for the shots into things. We end up getting a shot into this Centurion AVRE. Not quite sure how that went in. But we do get a shot to track him in place. I'm thinking, perfect, I might be able to pen his side there. Couldn't quite do it. Just looking for another shot into his side, but it doesn't quite go anywhere near him. We do get lit for that though, because the T-58 Heavy was coming to try and find a shot into us. We have 3 shots left in the clip. And I'm thinking, right, okay, what can we get some shots into? Here's the 277. We get a nice shot into his side. And I'm just going to keep dodging and ducking, dipping and diving. Fortunately enough, he missed. But unfortunately for us, we ended up hitting the I-7's back of his turret. And then the second shell ended up going absolutely nowhere near. Well, because the 277 basically managed to get back into cover. But now we're reloading again. I'm just going to pull back into the bushes to try and keep things like this T-58 lit, see if we can find anything else. And we end up spotting this ML2. And it's like, hello, Mr. ML2. I was loading premium for stuff like the 277, so I could guaranteed pen it. And this is where, again, our camo means we're not getting lit. We do get a tracking shot in, which is what we're aiming for. The second shell is aiming for the tracking shot again. And this is glorious. This means that we have this ML2 dead to rights. I do start moving because he is looking our way. And I don't want him to blind fire me. Unfortunately enough, we shut him down. And yeah, we just kept moving, even after fine. Even though we weren't spotted, because there was still the possibility that he could end up blind firing us. I didn't want to take the hit. We do manage to get the last shot in the clip into the Waffly 100, who we did spot at the back. I'm just going to look away from this Waffly 100 though, so I'm trying not to trigger his detector too much, so he thinks he's safe back there. But we are just waiting for this clip, and he has pulled all the way back. There's also the E4 on our right that we just got to keep an eye on, but we're nearly loaded. I decide, okay, I'm going to turn around so I can just pull forward as quickly as possible, because I'm going to try and shoot into this E4, but no, he gets unspotted. We do get a nice shot into the cupola, though, of the AVRE. He gives the side of his turret, which means we get to shut him down. We pull round to see if we can get another shot into the E4, but the E4 just about gets back behind cover. We do only have 3 shots left, and I'm thinking, right, what do? Do I rush down here to try and get rid of this T-58 and then get up behind the stuff that we know is in the corner at DC1? I decide, yeah, okay, screw it, we're going after the T-58. The Waffly 100 gets shut down by the Centauro 45T, and just as we're about to get to this T-58 Heavy, unfortunately he ends up getting shut down by the Death Star. But we do have 3 shells left, and I think, do I reload? Nah, you know what, the T-62A is still alive. I reckon he might still be over here, because he was spotted on top of this ledge around on my right-hand side. And we do get detected, and there is the T-62A. We can kill this guy in 3 shots, so I'm going to pull over and make sure. He does have really good DPM, though, which means he will fire at least twice before I kill him. So we get another shot in. Sadly doesn't set him on fire with his engine, but we do end up shutting down the T-62A, and we're up to 4k damage nearly with 3 kills, and there's only 2 tanks left on the enemy team. It is the tank destroyer over there and the Chieftain. The E4 ends up getting shut down, leaving only the Chieftain, which means we're going to speed towards the Chieftain. Why am I speeding towards him? Spotting. He is lit now by the TD behind him, so that's pretty much going to nick all the spotting, but we are going to rush over and see if we can just get as close as possible, get the spotting in here. Now, unfortunately, he gets a shot into us, which means we're now down to a 1 shot. He has very, very good DPM, and we get very lucky that we managed to end up dodging there. We unfortunately missed most of our shots. We mistimed the shot there. Instead of getting his side, we end up getting his far drive wheel, but we do get the shot in to finish off that Chieftain, and we finished the game with a really nice total for the Fraternite. Finished with 4 kills, 4.1k damage, 410 assistance, the first class, 1742 base XP. A really nice game for the Fraternite there on Sunset Coast. Again, showing the really nice clip that this thing has, because you can just, like with that ML2, like in any other autoloader, if you manage to track someone, you can just start farming all of their hit points so fast, and you can just wreck their day and rack up that damage. And this gun is good for that. It's good to be that flanking light tank. It's good damage dealer in total. Good damage dealer with either gun, to be fair, because you do rack up the damage quickly with both guns. It's just that the other gun leads to... There's more room for error with the other gun, because of the fact that you've got to make sure that you aim the shots properly. You've got to have a whole host of things go right for you to make sure that you're hitting all 6 shots that are in that clip. And yeah, your penetration's worse, which means you generally lose a lot more money. Stuff like that. Let's say this gun is the one that you are going to take. This is the most competitive gun on the tank. Is it the most fun gun on the tank? Probably. But the burst gun, like I say, has that meme. It's just got the potential meme to absolutely wreck someone so fast, and that can be funny. So as you can see, we're on Siegfried Line in the final replay of this video, and I'm going at 66 kilometers an hour. I am not using the turbo. Why? Because I don't want to limit my camo. I don't want to get seen coming down this way, and I want to be able to try and spot things. We end up spotting the WZ-111-5A, and we are keeping him lit. Well, not anymore. But we do get 1200 assistance. We're going to sit in this bush and see if we can light this guy up again. And we actually end up spotting him. And I'm not going to move until I've lit him, and until he's dead. Because this way, I can get more assistance on him. And thankfully, a gorilla ends up hitting him for 914. It must have ammo-racked him. But we get all the assistance on that 5A, which is absolutely glorious. We're just looking for a shot into the back end of that Kampfpanzer as we're on the move. We get the shot in, and I decide, okay, the Rhinoceronte is where he is. I don't think there's anything in this field. So we're going to use this field to our advantage. Use our mobility and then maneuver ourselves into a position where we can get shots into the ass of these guys and use our clip. And I'm going to benefit here from the pretty damn nice camo that this thing has and the pretty damn nice clip and alpha that it has too. As you can see, we end up slapping the shots, and we've got a shot into the back of the E100, 2 shots into the T58, and I'm just looking at where I can possibly get the last 2 shots in. I want to get up towards this bunker, because from the bunker over here, I can actually get shots into hopefully this Rhinoceronte and also the other tanks that are in that dip. We get a nice shot there into the Chieftain Mark 6, and by the way, this is the gun handling without vertical stabilizers. As you can see, the gun handling without vertical stabilizers is pretty damn good. And unfortunately, we didn't quite get the shot into the Chieftain there. I think we actually ended up hitting something that was unspotted. And we're just waiting for our reload now. We found our spot. We're at the bunker that I wanted to be at. And I'm just going to back up to it to make sure I'm as far away as humanly possible from these guys, so it makes it difficult for them to spot me. Now, the Rhinoceronte is running away. So we're just going to put some shots into him. I was kind of hoping to track him there, but it doesn't quite go in. We get another shot into his rear end, and hopefully we get the finish on this Rhino, which we do. We've got 3 shots left. Now we've got the shots into this Terran, but the Terran ends up spotting us because he's a little bit too close, but we're not detected at this current point, so I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to chance it. We're going to get the final shell in, which we do, and now we run for dear life. And thankfully, that Terran ends up missing us. We're up to 2.6k damage with 2.6k assistance. And once again, I'm just going to wait for my reload to pop in. I was pulling back to see if I could get any better shots at stuff like the M48 pattern, but I couldn't quite get it. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to pull forward and try and see if we can get into position to spot these Terrans, because the Terrans are an absolute pain. And naturally, if we get them lit up, it takes away some of their threat. Not all of it, because they are also ridiculously strong. But we're going to try and get up on top of this little hill where the dragon's teeth are, so that we can try and get some shots into the back of the other guys. But we do get the opportunity to shut down the Terran, but we get detected, and I think, you know what, that's possibly another Terran. I'm not risking that. We end up getting missed though, which is fine. I was looking for a shot into the back end of the M48 pattern, but it didn't quite happen. There's the other Terran that was looking at us, so it's like, well, why not? Let me try and kill this guy. We get 1 shot in. He is sitting still, perfect. Another shot in, and he gets shut down by the Centauro. The artillery there is spotted as well. We were going to try and see if we get a better position to get our gun depression onto him, but we can't quite do it. We only have 2 shots left though in the tank. It is the Terran on the enemy team left, and thankfully we do have shots into this guy for our final 2 shots in the clip. And we end up unloading those 2 shells into him, which is great. And unfortunately, we're not going to get any more shots into him, but we do finish the game with a really, really nice total for this tank, which is 3.9k damage and 3.2k assistance. Really nice game on Siegfried Line. That's what happens when you don't take the field. And finish with the epic victory. 2 kills, 3.9k damage, 3.2k assistance. First class, the Confederate. 1559 base XP. A really nice game for the Fraternite Char MLE 75. What is a pretty damn nice tank. Is it worth it? Well, I'll leave that one down to you. It's down to you light tank lovers. If you don't like light tanks, you probably won't like it. If you do like light tanks, you might like it. And especially autoloaders, because it is a damage dealing light tank, yeah. But is it worth it as a tier 9 premium? I'd probably say you just should go out and buy the AAT60. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success.